The last thing we want to talk about concerning controls is page layout. Now this is one of those things that you really need to be aware of because it will cause you some issues sometimes. Page layout is an attribute of the body tag, and it's also on your web form. It's a property that appears over there in the Properties window in Visual Studio, and you can choose this. Now, page layout determines how the controls and the text get positioned on the web page. Now this goes back to the very beginning of the World Wide Web and when we started using browsers. If you get a bunch of web developers in a room and ask them a question about page layout, these guys will be throwing chairs at each other in just a few minutes because different people have some strong feelings about how page layout should happen. You basically have two choices. Number one is flow layout. Now with flow layout, text, images, and controls wrap across and down the web browser. Now, I want you to picture your web browser, and let's say that this is your web browser. And with flow layout, it will begin to automatically, if I drop buttons on here, it will put one here, and if I drop another one, it will be right next to it. You've seen this. Then if I put a text box, it'll be right next to that. And then if I put a drop-down list, it'll be right next to that, and so forth. And then to move these things, I have to insert my cursor here, right, and go to the next line or put paragraph breaks or whatever. Now that means that we're going to start at the top and we're going to work our way across and down the page every time. Now what this means is if we resize this page, then this one may kick down to here because, again, it's going to work across and down every single time. Now, sometimes this is good, sometimes it's bad, and you'll know it. The other choice is the grid layout. Now, this is absolute positioning, okay? Absolute coordinates control positioning. And you'll see this all the time. But what we do with this is in a web page, and this is the default. If I create a button and then I move that button down to here, then I have some XY coordinates that says that button's always going to appear at that particular coordinate. Now, what will happen is if somebody resizes the browser window and this button is on this XY coordinate, it won't appear in the window. It's basically off the scale. And I will show you this. Let's go out to Visual Studio, and I'll show you the differences in these things and how you can set it. And we'll get into this in tracing just a little bit. Notice, if I look at the properties on this web form, let me scroll down here. Notice page layout. This is in grid layout right now, which means if I look at my HTML on these things, that you'll see, notice, Z-index 101, 102, and that's the order front to back. Then we have left, top, and so this is telling it, notice top and left. Always put this thing, 117 pixels from the left, 221 pixels from the top. Let's see which one we're looking at here. This is button 1. So remember, we're 117, 221. So if I take this thing and move it, and then come back out here and look at button 1, notice we've changed left 148, top 64. And it's always going to appear right there. Now, that's with grid positioning, grid layout. Let me bring this up. And since all these things are at grid positioning, notice what's going to happen if I resize. They're going to stick right there no matter what. Okay? Now I can change to flow layout, and this will change the way they act. Okay? But I want you to notice that if I go to flow layout, it will flow, but in my HTML, I still have this absolute positioning stuff out here, okay? And so I can go take this stuff out, and I'll just take it out on a couple of these and show you the way this looks. Now, I've killed the absolute positioning on a couple of those things, and you will see here as this thing builds, if I haven't made an error, notice these things are now flowing. They're always going to be right here. And so if I change the size of this, Notice it flowed down to the next line. And as soon as I pull out, it's flowing across. When that gets full, it goes down. So that's flow layout. You'll have to decide which one of these you want, which one fits your needs. And I just wanted you to see the difference in those. And so coming up in the next section of videos, we're going to leave controls and we're going to talk about tracing. You're going to like tracing.